Nobody fears the man who explains himself. They fear the one who doesn't have to. Machiavelli never said power was loud. He said it was controlled. And the deadliest move, the one most people spend their whole lives missing, is simple. Stop defending. Start controlling the frame. What most people never realize is that perception shapes reality long before logic even gets its turn. The world doesn't reward the most justified person in the room. It rewards the most composed one. And that gap between the person frantically explaining themselves and the person who simply stands still, that gap is where power is actually decided. Not in courtrooms, not in boardrooms. In the quiet, invisible moment where one person holds their ground and the other starts justifying why they should be allowed to. Understanding that single truth could change how you carry yourself forever. Don't skip any part of this video. Every section builds on the last. Let's begin. Number 1. The defense trap. Here's what school never taught you, what society never mentioned, what even the people you looked up to most probably got completely wrong. Defending yourself is a trap. Picture a workplace meeting. Someone throws criticism at you. Maybe it's unfair. Maybe it's flat out wrong. Your instinct? Explain, justify, set the record straight. But watch the room. The second you start explaining, something quiet shifts. People stop hearing your argument. They start reading your discomfort. And discomfort, in the minds of everyone watching, looks uncomfortably close to guilt. Machiavelli understood this. Perception doesn't wait for facts. It moves first. It lands before your explanation even finishes its first sentence. Now, think about this in a friendship. Someone spreads something about you, something unfair. You rush to correct it, message everyone, explain your side with full detail. But the more you explain, the more people start wondering why you care so much. Innocence, strangely, rarely needs that much noise. The person who stays still, who doesn't flinch or rush, appears to carry something the defender doesn't. Certainty. And certainty, real or not, reads his power every single time. But here's the part that makes this genuinely uncomfortable. Most people don't fall into the defense trap because they're weak. They fall into it because they care. They care about their reputation, their image, what people think. And that caring, worn openly on the surface, becomes the very thing that works against them. The defense trap doesn't just cost you the argument. It costs you the image you were desperately trying to protect. Because the moment you show how much something affects you, you've handed the other person exactly what they needed. Stay still. Say less. Let certainty do what panic never could. Number 2. Silence is not weakness. Most people were raised to speak up, say something, respond, fight back. Staying quiet was seen as backing down, as losing. But watch how the most quietly powerful people in any room actually behave. They don't rush to fill the silence. They sit in it, comfortably, like it belongs to them. Silence, when used with intention, does something words simply can't. It makes people nervous, and nervous people talk more. They fill gaps. They over-explain. They reveal things they're never meant to. You say nothing, and somehow you learn everything. Machiavelli wrote that a prince must know when not to act. That restraint, used at the right moment, could be sharper than any sword. In modern life, that restraint looks like this. Someone challenges you publicly, and instead of firing back, you simply pause, hold eye contact, say nothing. That pause, the whole room feels it. There's something deeply unsettling for the other person about someone who doesn't need to respond immediately. It signals that they're not threatened, and a person who can't be threatened is a person nobody quite knows how to handle. But there's something deeper here that most people never sit with long enough. Silence isn't just a tactical move. It's a signal of internal stability. It tells everyone watching that you are not at the mercy of what just happened. That you exist somewhere beyond the reach of whatever was thrown at you. The people who feel compelled to fill every silence, answer every challenge, correct every misunderstanding. They're not just losing tactically. They're revealing something about how settled or unsettled they actually are on the inside. Silence isn't emptiness. It isn't avoidance. In the right hands, at the right moment, it is the loudest, most controlled thing in the entire room. Number 3. Control the frame, not the fight. There's a mistake almost everyone makes when conflict shows up. They try to win the argument. They gather facts, build cases, raise their voice just slightly, trying to out-logic the other person. But arguments are rarely about logic. They're about who controls the frame. The frame is the invisible story being told around the facts. Whoever sets that story first wins, not always visibly, but in the minds of everyone watching. Think about it. In a leadership setting, 2 managers disagree publicly. One gets loud, leans forward, starts listing reasons. The other leans back, speaks slower, asks a single sharp question. Who looks in control? Not the one with more points, the one who appears to need the least. Machiavelli may suggest that the real battlefield was never the argument itself. It was always the perception around the argument. Control that, and the fight becomes almost irrelevant. In everyday life, this could be as simple as how you enter a difficult conversation. Your body language, your tone, the speed at which you speak, all of it tells a story before a single fact leaves your mouth. And here's what makes framing so quietly powerful. Most people don't even realize it's happening. They think they're in a logical debate. They think the best argument wins. So they keep sharpening their points, strengthening their case, preparing their next rebuttal, while the other person has already won. Not by having better facts, by making the entire room feel a certain way before the facts even arrived. That's the thing about perception. It doesn't ask for permission. It doesn't wait for the full picture. It decides early, settles fast, and rarely changes its mind, no matter how good your argument turns out to be. The person who frames the story controls the outcome. Every single time. Number 4. Never reveal your next move. There's a certain kind of person who announces everything. Their plans, their frustrations, their next step. They think transparency builds trust, and sometimes it does. But power moves quietly. When you reveal too much, you give people something dangerous. Time to prepare. Time to position. Time to work against you before you've even started. Watch how the most effective leaders operate. They don't broadcast strategy. They execute it. The announcement comes after, when the result is already sitting in the room. Machiavelli called this calculated ambiguity. Not deception, exactly. More like discipline. The discipline to keep your thinking private until your timing is perfect. In everyday life, this could look like staying quiet about a career move until it's done. Or deciding something internally without broadcasting the internal debate to everyone around you. People who announce their moves invite interference. People who simply appear, already positioned, already decided, invite something else entirely. Respect. Maybe even a little fear. Mystery doesn't make you untrustworthy. It makes you unreadable. And here's what most people never consider. Every time you share your plan before executing it, you're not just risking interference. You're also giving away the one thing that makes your move powerful. Surprise. Because a move that everyone saw coming carries half the weight of one that nobody did. There's also something psychological happening beneath the surface. When you keep your next step private, you stop seeking validation for it. You stop needing people to agree before you act. And that independence, that quiet self-sufficiency, is something others can feel even when they can't explain it. Unreadable people carry a kind of weight that loud, transparent people almost never do, because nobody can prepare for what they cannot predict. Number 5. The strength of controlled emotion. Emotion isn't the enemy of power. Uncontrolled emotion is. Most people leak their feelings without realizing it. A tightened jaw, a slightly faster response, a tone that shifts just enough for the sharp-eyed person across from them to notice. And once someone sees your emotional triggers, they own a map to your weaknesses. Machiavelli appears to have understood something modern psychology would later confirm, that the person who controls their visible emotional response controls the entire temperature of the room, not by being cold, by being steady. Think about a negotiation. 2 sides. One person visibly anxious to close the deal, the other unhurried, unbothered, genuinely comfortable with walking away. Who holds the power? The one who needs it less. That's not cruelty. That's clarity. Knowing your worth so deeply that no external pressure can shake what's already settled inside you. And here's what most people miss. Controlling your emotion in a heated moment doesn't mean you feel nothing. It means you've decided that your reaction belongs to you, not to the situation, not to the other person, not to the room. There's a version of emotional control that looks almost inhuman from the outside. But from the inside, it's one of the most deeply human things a person can practice. Because it requires self-awareness. It requires knowing exactly where your breaking points are and choosing, consciously, not to be broken there. Most people never do that work. So when pressure arrives, they react. They perform their feelings publicly. And in doing so, they hand every watching person a manual on exactly how to move them. Stillness under emotional pressure isn't distance. It's the deepest form of self-respect. And in a room full of people performing their reactions, it is, without question, the rarest thing anyone will see. Number 6. Let them underestimate you. There is a quiet advantage in being underestimated. Most people fight against it. They want to be seen, recognized, taken seriously immediately. But the ones who truly understand power, they let people sleep on them, on purpose. When someone underestimates you, they get comfortable. They stop guarding. They say more than they should, reveal more than they intended, and prepare less than they needed to. And then, when you move, nobody saw it coming. Machiavelli may suggest this was one of the most underrated strategic positions a person could occupy. Not weakness, invisible strength. In a workplace, in friendships, in competition, the person nobody's watching is often the one quietly positioning themselves 3 steps ahead. There's something almost freeing about it. When expectations are low, every move you make lands harder. Every result surprises. And surprise, in the game of perception, almost always shifts the balance of power in your direction. But here's the layer most people never reach. Being underestimated only works if you're actually doing something beneath the surface. It's not about playing small permanently. It's about understanding that visibility and power are not the same thing. People confuse the two constantly. They chase recognition, thinking it equals influence. But real influence doesn't always need an audience. The most dangerous people in any room are rarely the loudest ones. They're the ones who've been quietly watching, quietly learning, quietly preparing, while everyone else was busy competing for attention. You don't need the room's validation to control the room's outcome. Let them talk about who's impressive. Let them perform for the crowd. While they're busy being seen, you're already positioned exactly where it matters. Watching, waiting. And when the moment arrives, moving with a precision that nobody anticipated because nobody thought to watch you. Number 7. Patience is the sharpest weapon. Everything about modern life pushes you to react fast, respond immediately, decide now, move before the moment passes. but rushed decisions almost always serve the other person more than they serve you. Patience, real, disciplined patience, is something most people genuinely cannot maintain under pressure. And because they can't hold it, they rarely recognize it as the weapon it actually is. When you slow down while everything around you speeds up, something interesting happens. People around you start making mistakes. They overextend. They say things too early. They reveal their hand trying to force yours. Machiavelli understood that timing wasn't just important, it could be everything. The right move at the wrong moment still loses. In real life, this looks like knowing when not to close a deal, not to respond to a message, not to make a decision that everyone around you is pressuring you to make right now. There's a version of patience that looks like weakness from the outside. People mistake it for indecision, for fear, for someone who simply doesn't know what they want. And sometimes you let them think exactly that. Because the moment they believe you're hesitating, they relax. They stop applying pressure. They start making assumptions. And assumptions, made too early by the wrong person, almost always become the crack that everything else falls through. Real patience isn't passive. It's one of the most active, intentional things a person can practice. It requires holding your position while every instinct tells you to move. It requires trusting your timing when the room is screaming at you to hurry. Stillness under pressure isn't hesitation, it's control, and control, held long enough, with enough clarity and enough conviction, almost always wins. Not loudly, not dramatically, just quietly, decisively, and completely. Conclusion. Power was never about volume, never about who argued harder, defended loudest, or moved the fastest. It was always about who needed the least, and had the clarity to show it. Defend nothing, control your frame, move quietly, let them underestimate you, hold your emotions like they belong to you, because they do. And when the pressure comes, and it always comes, be the stillest thing in the room. That's not manipulation, that's not coldness, that is mastery of the most human kind. Now, here's what I want from you. Go to the comments right now. Tell me how you show up when someone challenges you in public. Do you defend yourself immediately? Do you go quiet? Do you hold your power or give it away without realizing? Write your one, your real one. Because someone reading your comment will see the same situation completely differently than you did, and that gap between two different minds, that's where real understanding begins. Like this video. Share it with someone who needs to hear this. And subscribe, because what's coming next will make this look like the introduction.